What's up, everybody? A Sparrow with a Gun here from Sleepless Nights with another episode on No Man's Sky. It is a beautiful day here on Sleepless Alpha Prime. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I saw that sunset or sunrise thing, and it just made me think of some kind of sports announcer where it's like, it's a beautiful day here at the stadium, so I had to throw that in there. This episode is going... Stop interrupting me, game. This episode is going to be a very strange one, as it, I think, is going to be the final episode. I didn't want to kind of just end it the way that we had last time on kind of a him-haw, but now that I've had a little bit of feedback and things like that, and taken some time and thought about it, I kind of do think we're going to wrap this series up here. I may continue to play it and stuff off and on here and there, but overall, I think just for video making purposes, the base building, I could go a little bit further, but not a whole lot. I don't think I could drag that out too much longer, and other than that, especially completing the Atlas path and things, we've kind of run, I think we've kind of run its course, honestly. That's one of those things I brought up in the last episode where, excuse me, playing-wise, you could do more. I mean, you could always go get better ships, bigger freighters, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of video making, that's what I kind of always have to think of as a YouTuber, is trying to decide, can I make good videos off of this, not just, is there more to do? And I feel like base building would give me a different kind of, you could do different things every time, but as we found out in the last episode, there are limits, because I built a whole garage that didn't end up saving because it was past the perimeter thing. So I think I'm just kind of running out of creative things to do here, not that there isn't more to be had. But with that in mind, this episode is going to be a little bit strange, because I'm going to do two different episodes for today. They're going up the same day. One is going to be a kind of suggestion and showcase of different things I'm thinking about for what's to come, kind of thing, for what's going to replace No Man's Sky. And in that regard, it's kind of going to be in the middle of this. Like, I'm going to take the same piece and put it here, but this is more for people that keep track of my No Man's Sky series, but the other one is going to be for people who don't and still want input on what's basically going to happen. So there's a few games that I've thought of, and I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit and switch over to a different non-No Man's Sky related type of thing and go over some of those things now. So I have kind of a list or a log kind of thing of some games that I've kept on the back burner and ideas that would make good, or I think they would make good series, and I just didn't have opportunities to try them. I had mentioned briefly in my last episode of No Man's Sky before this one, about coming back with Osiris or something like that. But actually, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over most of those stuff. I'm going to try and do it a little bit different than I did my last episode, where it was just kind of a chart. I'm going to try and include like footage and things like that. So let's get into that now. So one of the things that actually ended up transpiring was the Steam Summer Sale not too long ago. And I picked up a couple of games that they were on sale, they were whimsical type of thing, and they looked interesting, but after playing them, I found them actually really compelling and very interesting, and something with enough longevity and enough, not always diversity, but enough stuff to do that I thought they would be worthy of note, so I've included those as well. The first one on this list that I'm going to be going over is Dead Cells. Dead Cells is one that I did get in the Steam Summer Sale. It's a very interesting game on a development side. I have to say this, though. I picked it up because, one, it was cheap. It was on sale for, peanuts. But it had both recent and overall of overwhelmingly positive reviews, and that's not all too common on Steam. You get positive and mostly but overwhelmingly positive is not all. That's a bit more rare. So I took note, and I love 2D side-scrollers, I love RPGs, all that kind of stuff, so, I mean, actually, the games that I've been looking into developing in the future are probably going to be in that genre. So it really piqued my interest to have it be so well reviewed. And I look out for that on a development side too. I like to play games that were really highly regarded, so you can kind of see what's good about them. So Dead Cells I picked up from the review and the price, but it is a, I believe they're advertising it as a Roguevania, which is essentially the Metroidvania genre type of thing, combined with a roguelike. And it does some really interesting things in terms of the gameplay, and it's one of those things where I don't typically like roguelike games. I feel like they're a little bit, not punishing, but a little bit, the having to start over all the time makes them somewhat repetitive, and I will say that. Dead Cells it's fun. It's really, really fun to play. From a viewership standpoint, I don't know how repetitive it would be because of the roguelike mechanic. You could make it really simple of like every time you die, that's the episode or something. You know, there's a few different ways you could spin it. But if I'm being transparent and fully upfront, you're going to end up seeing a lot of the same starting areas and stuff repetitively because of the roguelike mechanic of having to start over every time. That said, in terms of playing, like even if you don't want to see it, even if you're like, I think it'd be, I still encourage you to go look it up because it is a really fun game. And I will say this, and I'm very confident in it, in my opinion. All this is my opinion. But I have to say this is probably the most solid early access game I have ever played. And what I mean by that is if you did not tell me, like if I didn't scroll through the description and see that it had an early access tag on it, I would not have known. To me, I thought the game was just done. Like, it played that well. It felt like a complete game. So when I noticed that it was early access and they were like, we're still doing this and we're balancing it, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, like a development company that actually has a really rock-solid foundation kind of thing. And the gameplay is really tight. It works really well. It's fast, it's smooth, it's accurate. Like, it's fun to play. It's a lot of fun to play. I admit, I don't know if it'd be that fun to watch. But like I said, I'm going to try and do these videos a little bit differently from now on, where this one's going to have hopefully some trailer footage, and I may just use the trailers if I haven't gotten any gameplay recorded or something. I may just download their trailers and loop them and stuff like that, but there should be some gameplay going while I'm talking about these. The next one on the list is Hollow Knight. Kind of in the same vein-ish, except for the roguelike part. It's more of a 2D RPG action type genre, or action RPG kind of thing. I think it's probably more of a truer Metroidvania than RPG or roguelike. It's not quite so stat balancing and leveling up and XP and all that. It plays more like an action game in a side-scrolling environment, but it's very Metroidvania in the idea of like you unlock new places and you can fast travel and you'll have to come back to areas when you have different abilities and things like that, and things of that nature. The art style is adorable and awesome. Now I will say this: a lot of my viewers on my channel, they don't watch everything that I put out. And so it's like some people just watch Space Engineers, some people just watch Subnautica and stuff like that. And so they get kind of locked into kind of how I am. And that's not always the case. For example, I'll probably end up getting some feedback from people of like, Dead Cells looks too dark or something, or Hollow Knight looks a little creepy or something. Personally, I don't care. I love both games. I think they're awesome. Even though Dead Cells is a little bit gory and graphic, it's not really that crazy when compared to something like Dark Souls or something like that. And for some of you, you've heard me comment on those before. You know I play those. So for me, they're not a big deal. I'm not going to be throwing up like censorship tags or things like that. But yeah, I may throw I don't know, I may put my M rating disclaimer thing on Dead Cells at least. Because Hollow Knight is not really gory or graphic. It's just a little... I think one of the articles I read about it hit it best. It said Burton-esque. It's very Tim Burton in terms of graphics and art style. It's got that kind of like dark cartoony kind of look to it, but it's not inherently like gory or anything like that I know of, or at least not to me. I don't know. Gore's never really been something that bothered me. I am mindful of it, of what I put up on my channel, so I can understand if it's outside of most of my subscribers, like comfort zones or something. And it's like, it doesn't really seem like my cup of tea, and that's fine. All of this is just suggestion. They're things that, you know, I've been playing both of those games anyway, so it's not going to hurt my feelings if I don't get to record them or something. So that's just something to be mindful of. It is preference. I am listing off ideas that I have, but if it's not your cup of tea, then don't vote for it or whatever. I am going to be putting up a straw poll for this one. I messed that up a little bit on my last feedback video where I was kind of just asking for comments and things like that, and the straw poll thing was a good idea made by a commenter on my last one, and I'm going to use it this time, where if you have these suggestions of something that's on this list, please use the straw poll. If not, and you click the other option, because I don't know how to fill in the blank and make your own options on StrawPoll for a voter. Like, I don't know if you can put other and then type in something. I don't know how that works. So I'm just going to make an other button. And if you pick other, then leave a comment or a message or something. Let me know what other game you'd rather me play that's on your list or something. And again, like I said in my last video, I can't guarantee that I'll pick anything that, everybody suggests. It's more of a ratio thing. I'm just looking for where most people are leaning. So if it's on this list, please use the straw poll. It'll kind of consolidate and make it a lot easier for me to, keep track of. The next one on the list is Osiris, which is one that some of you are familiar with because I have done it on my channel before, and there's been updates and, upgrades and new content and things like that. So it's worth noting it's still kind of in my typical genre that I use on my channel. Again, I play a lot of everything. Just for future reference, kind of fun fact, most of the only couple of genres I'm really not an avid player of is like sports and sports, some racing, some fighting games, things like that. I'm not as predominant. Need for Speed, Gran Turismo I really like. I've always played those two as like racing. That's like my two racing games that I play. And like Wipeout. Caden Red Pearl's been trying to get me onto Formula Fusion because it's kind of similar to Wipeout anyway. So I play some racing things. I dabble in fighting games. I'm really just not good at them, so I don't really play them. But the sports and stuff, those are really the only things I don't play. RPG, action, shooter, RTS, even stuff like something from Dark Souls to Little Big Planet to I play all kinds of stuff. It's more about what I found worked for my viewership and my channel and stuff, and so I kind of end up falling back into the space sandbox and stuff like that because that just seems to be what's kind of dominant on my channel mostly. But as far as me as a gamer, I'm going to be throwing stuff out here that sometimes isn't, like Dead Cells and Hollow Knight. That's not my typical genre on my channel, but for me, I play that kind of stuff all the time, so it was right in my wheelhouse. But Osiris is more in my typical vein. It's the space sandboxy survival kind of thing. I'm a little concerned in the longevity sense of Osiris for the building mechanic. It's not quite as freeform as something like Space Engineers. But I know that they have updated it a lot recently, since I played it last, within the time frame of now, and when I played it, they've added a lot of content and things like that. So it could be a while before I actually hit a bar where I'd end up running out of things to do again. Because that's ultimately what kind of led me to stopping Osiris in the first place. I actually was having fun with it, but I was running out of things to do, and it ultimately led to No Man's Sky and Witness Wind. Eventually, every game has its limits, except for something like Minecraft. Then you have seasons, but most games have some point where you've seen and done everything. The next one is Medieval Engineers. Now, I put this on here because the last time I did this, of what would you guys like to see, I was actually surprised that Medieval Engineers and Hardland were kind of tied, which was surprising. And Hardland should kind of be on this list, but again, I haven't heard anything about them fixing the patch, or fixing the bug I encountered where I couldn't save and stuff, so I'm kind of just leaving that on the shelf for a while until it's a little bit more updated and further along. I do want to come back to that eventually, but I don't think it's been enough time since I stopped it. That and viewership was down on it anyway, so it didn't really matter. But Medieval Engineers was another strong contender for when I was thinking of replacing The Witness and all that kind of stuff. So that's on the table as well. Again, I know it's a little bit different being medieval and not, high-tech and spacey and all that kind of stuff. And I've heard mixed things. I've heard some people say they've done a lot of updates to it and it's a lot better. I've heard some people say they still need to do a lot on it. So that's kind of a mixed bag. One that I actually forgot to put on my notes here that I'm reading off of was, it... Oh gosh, I just remembered it and now I forgot it. Talos Principle. That was the other one I was thinking of. That was one that I really was interested in. It looked really cool. And it was actually brought up to me when I was replacing The Witness, that some people had wondered if I was going to replace it with another puzzle type game. And at first I hadn't even thought about it. I've had it in my Steam library for forever when it was on sale at one point a few years ago or something. And I've never played it, but I always wanted to. It looked really, really cool. So that's another one I don't know too much about, other than it's like another first-person puzzler type thing like Witness, and it got really high marks and everybody seemed to really like it, so that's also on the list, or at least it should be. And so I kind of forgot to put it on my little notepad thing that I was going off of, so I had to kind of take a step and remember what it was. That one, it's kind of straightforward. It's a puzzle game. As far as if that's not something you're into, then I don't think there's going to be anything about that like wins you over or something. If you weren't a fan of like The Witness and stuff and that abstract high concept puzzle type thing where it makes you think about how you perceive the world, and it's probably not going to be your cup of tea. But I forgot about it when I was making my notes, and so I wanted to make sure I at least listed it so that it was an option. The other one, now this one is going to make things a little complicated, but it is something that's intriguing to me. It's not actually out yet, and that's why it makes it kind of complicated for scheduling. But it's called Yonder, I think, and it's got a long subtext thing, something like Cloud Seeker Chronicles or something like that. It was something I ran across on my Steam queue, the whole like things we recommend for you type of thing, but when I looked at it, I was like, I like the art style. The art style kind of reminds me of like a Hardland a little bit. Kind of that Pixar cartoony type of style. Not exactly, but it shows some kind of, I'm sure there was some inspiration there. The weird part is it's listed with tags of stuff like crafting and survival and stuff like that, but then it also seems to have a narrative, which is weird. Normally crafting games are more like Minecraft and Space Engineers and Subnautica and things that kind of have a sandbox feel, not really like a narrative where it's a linear story or something. So that was a little weird. It's interesting and it looks cool. Again, I don't know if it's early access or things. I don't remember. I'm not looking at that particular page at the moment. And I don't know anything really about it other if you've heard of it or something and know more, let me know, that's fine. But as far as me, all I really know is I ran across it on Steam and bookmarked it because it looks kind of interesting, but it wasn't out yet. And it was something that, depending on price and stuff like that, or if there was any kind of interest on my channel type of thing, if it was something that looked interesting. So again, there's going to be trailers and stuff in the background, hopefully, if I can edit it all correctly, and get all that organized. That'll be kind of showing off kind of some of the games and things like that. I'm also going to include links and stuff. I'm going to try and make it a little bit more, I may not do links anyways, but you'll see what the game kind of looks like, at least from what I know from trailers and things. But I do encourage you to check out some of them if you are interested, but not sure, because I probably will be talking over them, so I won't probably be including the audio. And sometimes, especially in Yonder's case, it has kind of a narrative in the trailer that kind of sets up and explains the setting a little bit more. So if it is something that looks intriguing, but you're not really sure, I do encourage you I may include links in the description and stuff for those Steam pages, so that you can go and check them out yourself. But I wanted to at least throw some trailers and stuff in there for games I was talking about, just so people didn't have to go hunting to see if it's like, I've never heard of that, I don't know what it is. But that's kind of my list at the moment. Those are the things I've been juggling around, thinking of replacing No Man's Sky with. Like I said, and there is the other option, kind of goes without saying, that there are other things we could do in terms of, I could do a second episode of something. And I started to say, speaking of second episodes, the reason Yonder is a little bit complicated is it comes out on the 18th. And the 18th is a Tuesday, which is normally a day after I put up my No Man's Sky videos. Normally No Man's Sky is Monday, and that's the time slot I'm looking to replace is Monday. So that complicates things because this week is going to be the last episode of No Man's Sky where we kind of discuss the same thing, and then this one's coming out for people that haven't watched it. So that kind of clears me for this week, but then next week is where I'm kind of hoping to have a decision, and Yonder comes out the day after I would need it. So what I'm basically going to end up doing is, if Yonder seems like the thing to do, everybody's like, we're interested, we're curious, let's go for it, whatever. If that ends up being kind of the consensus, what's going to end up happening is I'm going to shift my schedule all around on that week. The next week it would go back to the normal, like Yonder would be Monday, and Elite would be Tuesday and all that kind of stuff. But that particular, like next week, if that's what's decided, I would have to do something like Elite is Monday, Subnautica's Tuesday, and then Yonder's Wednesday, or something like that, to kind of juggle the release date issue. So just bear that in mind if it does seem like something you're interested in, that it will kind of be a weird week that week, if that's what I end up coming out with. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for my list anyways. Those are the few that I've been kind of rolling around in my head, and I am going to try and do some cards and end screens, I think. I forgot to mention this in my actual No Man's Sky video, but this audio clip will be in that video, so look for that at the end. Mainly because I don't know if YouTube's taken out their annotations yet. They talked about taking out annotations and replacing it solely with end screens and cards, so I'm going to try and put the straw poll in both of those, as well as description and stuff like that. If I can still do an annotation, I'll probably do that instead. But I think they took it out already. I don't know, so I'll have to look into that. But one way or another, keep an eye out on this video thing, look in the card corner, wait till the end, or, something like that. And if all else fails, and if all of it's all broken, just look in the description and the straw poll will be down there. But like I said, I do encourage you to, if you like or want to see a series on any of the things that are on that list, please use the straw poll. And if not, then use the straw poll, but click other, and then, comment or message me on what you'd rather see. But that's kind of my list of things that I've been keeping an eye on and things I'd be interested in playing while still thinking they'd make good videos. That's the kind of juggling act I usually do, is I have to enjoy it. Otherwise it won't be any fun for anybody, because the commentary and stuff won't be lively or anything, because it's work at that point. So it's like, I have to be interested in it, but at the same time, if no one else is interested in the videos, I can just play it in my off time. I don't need to make a video on it. So it's kind of that balancing act of what makes a good video, and does it have longevity? Can you do a lot? I was actually very, very surprised with the Hollow Knight scope. I played it for like an hour or something, maybe, the other night, and was still playing around in the first area, and when I watched the trailer again, just to see what else you could do, they have this massive map, and it was just like, okay, longevity-wise, that could go for a while, that kind of thing. That's the kind of stuff that, and the roguelike side of Dead Cells, that's the kind of stuff that brought me to including those on the list. They're fun, but they also have quite a bit of life in them for a series. So it's kind of that trifecta, is the viewers have to want to see it, and subscribers have to be interested. I have to be interested so I don't get bored with it, and able to come up with new things and be creative. And then the game itself has to have enough things to do. So between those three, that's the list I kind of compiled out of what I've been looking at. Mull it over, think about it, let me know what you guys think, leave your feedback on the poll, or comment message if there's something you'd rather see that's not on there. Okay, so that about wraps up my ideas and my thoughts and things that I've considered. Like I did say, you can... I'm not entirely sure how to do the suggest-your-own other than just comments and messages. So I would say if you use the straw poll thing and you ticked other or something, I'm not real familiar with straw poll, so I don't know if there's a way to do, like, put in your own or something like that. So what I'm going to end up doing is just other, and then you can leave comments or messages or whatever regarding, like, something that wasn't on that list kind of thing. But those are the main contenders that I've been thinking of and kind of keeping an eye on to I always kind of keep this backlog in my head of like games that would be kind of cool, but my schedule's kind of full, so if something opens up, here's some things I could put in their place type of thing. So yeah, that's where a lot of those come from. But so on that note, we're gonna kind of just give a once over, you know, kind of look through our base one more time, things like that, just as kind of a goodbye for now type of thing. But like I said, so I really need feedback and stuff like that. That would be greatly appreciated, because ultimately it's the viewer that's going to be watching the stuff, so that's the most important as to what you want. I do recommend the straw poll, though. I didn't do that last time, and it made things a little bit hectic and confusing. So if you're gonna input, if you want to leave your input and stuff, and the option you'd like is on that list, please use that, and if not, then you can message and comment and stuff and leave what you'd rather see done type of thing. But if it's on that list, I'd like to keep everything on that one poll so that it'd be a little bit easier at a glance to just kind of look through and see where everybody's kind of sitting. But a couple of them were really surprising to me. I hadn't really thought about them, but I ran across them on the Steam sale and I started playing them, and I was like, yeah, these are actually a lot of fun. But on that note, I think we're going to wrap things up here for this episode, the final episode for now, at least, on No Man's Sky. Thank you all for supporting it and keeping up with me and all that good stuff. But until next time, where we were on something else, we're going to wrap things up here. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you guys in another series at some point next week. Later. Peace. All that good stuff.